Oh, man. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on a Monday night. What are we going to talk about? I do wonder. Here on the Prime Time show, we have breaking news to begin the evening, literally 5 minutes before I finalized my rundown. Isaiah Wilson has tweeted that his time with the Tennessee Titans has come to a close. He has since deleted that tweet. We have thrown out the rundown. We have scrapped everything that we were prepared to talk to you guys about tonight. And instead, we're just going to straight up do live reaction. We'll talk about the Panda. We'll talk about the path forward. We'll talk about John Robinson as general manager and where the hell the Tennessee Titans go now. But it seems that Isaiah Wilson is not part of the path. Now, I have not yet confirmed that he has been cut. I have many texts out to a bunch of different people across the Tennessee Titans organization. I am getting very minimal response right now, but I will update you as those texts come through on my phone. Before we get started, before we start it up and get the show going, you guys got to share this show. I won't take too long with it. Retweet it if you're on Periscope. Share it. Share now to public in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen on Facebook Live. If you stream with us on YouTube and Twitch TV, we invite you to tell your friends because you know we're about to have a big show here on A to Z Sports Prime Time. So without further ado, welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on Monday. I'm your host, Buck Rising from the DraftKings Sportsbook Studios, and I am proud, as always, to be presented to you by Two Rivers Ford, the name you know, the brand you trust for nearly 40 years in the automotive industry here in Middle Tennessee. Two Rivers Ford out in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. America's top-rated sportsbook app, DraftKings Sportsbook. Plug in that promo code A to Z Sports, and you will have access to all of their great odds boosts, profit bonuses, no-brainer bets. All you got to do is use the promo code. But first, download the app. The Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. Gary Ashton is the official real estate agent of the Tennessee Titans, and Isaiah Wilson, it seems, will not be finding his dream address without the stress in the state of Tennessee. But since you are in the state of Tennessee, and since you want to use people that you trust for your real estate acquisitions, GaryAshton.com, the official real estate agent of the Titans, the Preds, and your boy here on Prime Time. And finally, Brymac Mechanical, BRYMAK, that's Brymac.com, satisfaction guaranteed on all of your HVAC needs. Okay, so we're sitting here. I'll walk you through the chain of events. Producer Reed is sitting on his toes. We had to completely scrap the rundown, so Reed, bear with me here because we're making this stuff up as we go. But I'm going to give you every ounce of information that I have off the top. The Two Rivers Ford take, we'll start with it this way, Reed, watching from his production location. Two Rivers Ford take, give me one word to describe the tenure of Isaiah Wilson as a Tennessee Titan as we sit here on February the 22nd. One word to describe Isaiah Wilson's tenure as a Tennessee Titan. Let me know on Facebook Live, YouTube, Periscope, and Twitch. I will tell you exactly what he said, and I will tell you exactly what tweet he has since deleted. Buck, did you see that he's becoming a rapper, says Luke Worsham? No, I did not see that, but I will stay tuned for his EP. Jared, 88, says, what an effing waste. Breaking his own news, says Talk to Cody. Yeah, listen, you know he's already deleted the tweet, so here's the tweet, right? I'll read you the tweet from Isaiah Wilson that he has already taken down in literally a matter of, it's been maybe 15 minutes since the tweet went up. So I will pull this up on Twitter. It says from his verified Twitter account @_lazy_. I'm done with football as a Titan. No further comment. That's what Isaiah Wilson tweeted from his personal Twitter handle, and he has since deleted in a matter of 14 minutes when I saw it and quote tweeted it on social media. So we know what John Robinson had to say about him. We'll play for you those comments momentarily because they were not a glowing review when we spoke to John a week ago today on this very subject matter. Stephen Crozio on YouTube says, I was watching CW's All-American. The show was about to end when all of a sudden Isaiah Wilson's tweet showed up, and I was like, what in the world? Hey, this is Stephen. I knew that they were hugely displeased with him. I did not know that they would take actions to cut him even before, any kind of off-season program for the 2021 season. That much I was not sure on. But it seems today that this is a situation where all of these things have come to fruition in the last full week since we spoke to John. Buck, please destroy the panda, says BMO. I mean, I'm not going to destroy him. Listen, here's what I'll say, okay? Because Isaiah Wilson clearly going through some stuff right now. And it's not, I do not believe that it is the right thing to do to personally and completely destroy a human being when they have failed so spectacularly. I mean, there's no question that this dude is a complete and utter embarrassment to the organization that drafted him, to the people who vouched for him, to Georgia, to his high school in New York, to his family, to everybody. Nobody is questioning that fact. But I do not know what kind of demons Isaiah Wilson is dealing with, whether they be addiction-related, drug, alcohol, whatever, or otherwise. All I know that he is in a bad spot, and it is largely self-inflicted. Your Two Rivers Ford take, give me one word to describe Isaiah Wilson's tenure as a Tennessee Titan. We will do so together. You'll hear from John Robinson. Again, we're doing this show on the fly. It should be fun because I think I work best without any kind of guidelines or guardrails, but we'll see how it goes. We put the bumpers down and we're going for the strike. We'll see how it ends up. But in the meantime, give me your one word to describe Isaiah Wilson's tenure as a Tennessee Titan, your Two Rivers Ford take. While you guys do that, I will remind you about our friends at Two Rivers Ford out in Mount Juliet, non-commissioned sales staff. They will make the car purchasing process as easy as humanly possible on you. They're salespeople. They're not feeling the pressure to make a sale because they know they're getting their salary. And it's not like they feel any pressure to make a sale anyway, because these cars, they practically sell themselves. Two Rivers Ford for all of the new great vehicles that are rolling off the production belt and into the lot. You can drive one off the lot if you so choose. Broncos, Mustangs, F-150s, you name it, they got it. Two Rivers Ford out in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. One word to describe his tenure as a Titan. You're too smiley right now, Buck. Listen, that's from Buck Ali on Periscope. I'm not celebrating that Isaiah Wilson is straight up gone, or it seems to be. Again, I have a lot of different texts out to people. I'm waiting for some kind of confirmation. Right now, nobody is confirming anything other than to say what the hell is going on. And hell is probably the most PG-13 word I can use based on what's happening in my text. What a damn disaster, says Stephen Wood Jr. Time to take out the trash there. Forgive me, the comments are scrolling in fast and furious. Denise on Facebook says he's a punk, overdue, according to Titans for Life. Misguided, says Timbo209. But that's the thing. And here's where I will chastise Isaiah Wilson, because from what I understand from the people that I've talked to, this dude has had a multitude of people reach out to him, try and protect him, try and guide him through his first season. COVID list, several stints on the COVID list, NFI, DUI, everything that you can name that Isaiah Wilson went through. There was a player, a team official, somebody with the Tennessee Titans organization that reached out, and outside of sports. Ramon Foster, our buddy from 104.5 The Zone, has talked about this publicly. Ramon had an 11-year career as an NFL offensive lineman. He lives here in Tennessee. He does local radio. He says, hey, man, let me help you find your way through these things. You're in a new place. You need some guidance. Let me show you how I found my way to a decade plus in this league, competing for Super Bowls, not necessarily winning them, but don't tell Ramon that. And trying to survive and thrive in one of the most competitive leagues, one of the most competitive professions in all of professional sports. This is a situation where Isaiah Wilson has had resource after resource available to him, and yet he squanders these opportunities. That you can pin squarely on Isaiah Wilson. One word to describe his tenure here on A to Z Sports Prime Time from the DraftKings Sportsbook Studios. Charles Heron on Facebook says clueless. AZ Mick on YouTube says worthless. Cheeks says Rashad Mays, using my word. What is the current name of his Instagram, says Puka? It's something like Double G Panda or something like that. I don't know. He's changed it like 6 times. Pathetic, says Adam in the Bury. Denise just keeps coming with haymaker after haymaker on Facebook Live. Disappointing is the correct word, says Titan Rick Sanchez. No, but I think it's so far past disappointing. Aaron Hockey says trade time. What? Dude, nobody is trading for this guy. This is the thing that I don't think people understand. We'll go through the financial implications. Again, we're reacting to this on the fly. I want to make sure I give you guys the most clear and relevant information possible. And we've got a couple resources that we're going to go through the financials with together. Again, I haven't had time to properly break things down, put pen to paper, or type an article out and do my thorough research as I would, but I have enough of an understanding about the situation to walk you guys through that. So we'll get that in a second. But trade time, nobody's trading for this guy. What? Name me a team. Aaron, explain to me your logic. Because who in pro football, other than the Texans, who are terrible at making deals, and maybe not even now because Bill O'Brien's gone, but who is looking at this situation from outside of Nashville and saying, you know what I want? I want that guy on my team. I think that guy can help my roster. I think that guy is worth giving up valuable trade assets to make sure that we can further the success of our team and further our ability to compete for Super Bowl championships. That's not Isaiah Wilson. In what world is that Isaiah Wilson? In what world is anybody trading for that? One word to describe Isaiah Wilson's tenure as a Tennessee Titan. Let me know on Facebook Live and on Periscope. He made $11 million more than I did not playing football. I need an agent, says John Bobst. Would love to hear from his mom, says Puka. Yeah, I don't think that's happening anytime soon. I've seen the word that I want to use in the comments section. First, I'm going to let you hear from John Robinson. But before I do that, I'm going to tell you about our friends at Brymak Mechanical. BRYMAK. That's where you go for satisfaction guaranteed on all of your HVAC needs. Brymak Mechanical, the best in the business. They will hook you up just as they hooked me up for when the seasons begin to change. It was a very drastic change in temperature from this weekend to today. You want to make sure that your heat and your AC is functioning properly and has the proper preventative maintenance at Brymak Mechanical, Brymak.com. All right, John Robinson spoke on Isaiah Wilson just a little over a week ago, literally hours over a week ago from the time that we sit here with you. Here was John Robinson when our buddy Joe Rexroad of The Athletic asked him what the status of this particular player, this former first-round pick, number 22 overall, what the hell is going on with Isaiah Wilson?
Yeah, I think again, we put him on the reserve non-football illness list there. I haven't spoken to him since that list got put out. I think we did a lot of work a year ago leading up to selecting him. The evaluation process, talking to different sources, visiting with him countless numbers of times, and for whatever reason, the player that this fall was here in Nashville wasn't the guy that was that we spent time with last year. So I think he's going to have to make a determination if he wants to do everything necessary to play pro football, and that's going to be on him. I know what the expectation level is here. It's no different than any other player on the football team. We have a certain standard that we want players to prepare and perform at professionally and as people, and a lot of work to be done there.
How do you feel about things at this point? I know you just said you haven't talked to him, but how do you feel about where things stand now, and how close are you to feeling like you have to move on?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I'm constantly monitoring the situation. We have people that have been in contact with him that I've talked through kind of third party wise, but we'll see how that one goes.
Well, we seem to have seen how that one went in the last week. That's John Robinson speaking about Isaiah Wilson just a little over a week ago today. Let me know what your one word in the comment section to describe the tenure of Isaiah Wilson is on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch TV here on Primetime from the DraftKings Sportsbook Studios. Here's the word that I will use, and Wolfpack Brad beat me to it in the comment section before I could say it myself. Phony. Phony. Fraudulent. Producer Reed, running the show behind the scenes. Bless your heart because you're doing all this on the fly. The one word that I would use to describe the tenure of Isaiah Wilson as a Titan, if it has indeed concluded, again, we have not yet confirmed that. I want to make sure that I say that. We do not yet know that Isaiah Wilson has been cut. Only what he tweeted. So we're working off that information while we await new information to come in via the resources that I've reached out to. Fraudulent is the word that I would use, Reed, and I want it in bold caps, whatever the hell, fraud. Fraud is what I sit here and think about Isaiah Wilson, because here is the biggest thing, as I understand it. The traits that Isaiah Wilson had made him problematic, because all of the things that John said, it's not that I absolve John Robinson straight out of the, what Isaiah Wilson screwing this up royally does not completely and totally absolve John. Although there's not really been a precedent for a player like this who's this just blatantly unprofessional. And in fact, I'll get to a Joel Corey comment, a former NFL agent, who said as much in an interview that he just did recently on local radio. But Isaiah Wilson, fraud is my word here on A to Z Sports Prime Time. Fraud because he was able somehow to get good enough people to back him well enough to let the Tennessee Titans feel comfortable drafting him. He was good enough at projecting who he was not to Mike Vrabel, John Robinson, during a virtual offseason that allowed them to feel comfortable selecting him with their first-round pick last year. Fraud. Because none of that, as John Robinson said, the player that we spent countless hours with, the player that we spent countless hours doing research on, talking to people, working out, looking at the film. And by the way, the film is great. Like, he was worthy of a high second, low first round pick as a football player. Everything that you saw on the field from Isaiah Wilson at Georgia didn't necessarily justify any character issues, but you were made to feel a lot more comfortable about maybe this kid doesn't work as hard, which is some of the stuff that's coming out retroactively, which I think is kind of bullshit. But whatever. So John Robinson is telling you this dude straight up pulled one over on us. And if there was ever a time for it to happen, it would be during a COVID virtual pre-draft process. Again, not to excuse John. This falls squarely on his shoulders. Mike Vrabel is also a part of the evaluation process. Mike went to bat for him. People stood up for this guy, stood on the table for this guy. And honestly, depending on how hard, whatever area scout or whomever helped sell John Robinson and Mike Vrabel on this being the guy to spend their first round pick on, this is blatantly a fireable offense for it to go this poorly. But as it relates to Isaiah Wilson and the one word to describe his tenure here in Nashville, if it is indeed over, forgive me, I'm getting choked up, is that he's just blatantly fraudulent. That's all it is. It's 4 snaps, 3 of them, or 1 of them on special teams when he got knocked on his ass on a field goal, and 3 in victory formation in a blowout in Indianapolis. What was that, in November or October? Fraud. That's the biggest thing that you come away with looking at Isaiah Wilson. Phony, fraud, fraudulent, all of it here on A to Z Sports Prime Time. People really had hope for this man, says D. Owens. If 2020 was a player, says Sir Benedict 87. Benedict, I wish I could I wish I could somehow find a way to like that tweet or comment on Periscope. I don't think I can, but just know that I love it. Tweet of the day, if 2021 was a player. He's a young guy. He needs to come into his own. No, listen, Aaron, that's not a justification. Again, Aaron, with this, I don't know if you've just not been following the situation, but it's not just a young guy coming into his own. Listen, I was an asshole at 21 or 20 or 22. What Isaiah Wilson is either 21 or 22, whatever. And I didn't have $11 million to be an asshole with, right? Like, I was just a jerk. Most 21, 22-year-olds, largely jerks, especially when they're isolated from the team, when you give them tens of millions of dollars and you say, you know what, we'll deal with you later. We'll deal with you in the offseason. Right now, we just don't have time for you. They tried to give him the time. They tried to give him help. He declined it, ignored it, whatever, went about business his own way, and now it is likely going to see him cut from the Tennessee Titans. This is the place that we find ourselves in. Barrett says, how much do we owe him and how much can we get back? Barrett, you know what? We'll talk about it. We'll talk about the path forward. I want to know on Facebook Live, Periscope, and YouTube TV. Actually, Reed, we're not even going to ask you guys a question. We're just going to update you, breaking down the contract implications, Reed, if we could. Again, I'm speaking to producer Reed directly through you guys, because normally we did do pre-show prep, and it was a totally different show. And then Isaiah Wilson dropped in our laps at 7:55, and we said, all right, we're going to do the show. So, Reed, breaking down the contract implications of the Titans cutting Isaiah Wilson. Put that out there for the people on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch TV. We will go through it together. We will discuss at length. I will tell you what exactly the breakdowns are and what the path forward for the Tennessee Titans will be right after I remind you about the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. GaryAshton.com. That's the place that you go for your dream address without the stress. If you are not in the market to get a new home, you are in the market to sell your home, to get more for your money, to sell for more is what the Ashton team will help you do. GaryAshton.com. Those are the people that you trust. Those are the people who are in Middle Tennessee working for Middle Tennesseans at GaryAshton.com. All right, so let's go point by point through Isaiah Wilson's contract right now. I'm going to tell you how much they already paid him, how much they still owe him, what the dead cap hit would look like if they cut him, and if and how they can go about recouping said money on Isaiah Wilson. Here's the situation that we find ourselves in. Barrett asked first, so we'll get through Barrett's conversation here. Isaiah Wilson's contract breakdown. Here is the money that they have already paid out to him. He got at signing so it's a 4-year, $11.5 million contract. He has already received 5.9 of that in signing bonus. He was guaranteed at signing the $11.35 million. Right now, he is currently set to make $11.35 million guaranteed. 6 of it has already been paid out. So if all things hold pat, the Titans would incur $5.3 million in dead cap and save. They would save 2.6. It would cost them 5.3. So they would essentially lose about $2.5 million by cutting Isaiah Wilson. They would not save any money if they were to straight up cut him. Now, here's where things get interesting, because this is something that Joel Corey, he's a great analyst for CBS Sports. He used to be an NFL agent. And so Joel Corey, in an interview with our buddy Joe Rexrode last week, said one of the most unprofessional players I've seen in this league in a long time, talking about Isaiah Wilson. But here's the kicker. The 1-game suspension last season, the suspension for the Browns game, should void his future guarantees, making it less painful financially to move on if the Titans choose to do so. So the money that's already been paid out, you're going to lose that. The $5.9 million that you paid out to Isaiah Wilson. The rest of the money, because we talked about a 4-year, $11.5 million deal, you have already paid out 5.9. You can keep, in theory, the other 5.6 because you've justified the cutting of him, the void of the rest of his guarantees, because he violated essentially some term of his contract with that 1-game suspension. He put himself at risk. The team took action to protect themselves against future action or for future action that they may take against Isaiah Wilson. Doesn't mean they have to go through arbitration, but they will have to litigate this out. This is a situation where the Titans can essentially save $5.6 million. And this makes a big difference, right? This is the difference between a Corey Davis extension or bringing back 2 of the unrestricted free agents, Jayon Brown, Jonnu Smith, Clowney even, if you wanted to talk about it, Desmond King, Daquan Jones, the list goes on and on. The flexibility that they would be able to have if they got an additional 5.6 back next year without Isaiah Wilson on the books would be huge in a year where they're cash strapped. This is the situation right now, as John Michael Presley says, he can start his rap career 8 p.m. pissed at J-Rob for drafting a nut, says James. Tim Everett says Taylor Lewan is our left tackle. Nobody is disputing that. Now, what Shrike said is sue for the signing bonus back. You can go about trying to recoup some of the signing bonus as well, if not all of the signing bonus. Depend on how negligent he was, Isaiah Wilson, in regards to the terms of the contract. Now, I don't want to give you guys misinformation. I don't want to mislead you right now, and I don't know all the details of how they would go about arbitrating. Again, we got the news live. I want to make sure that I'm not gaslighting you guys in a way that is not correct. So let me hold off on speaking about how they would go about trying to recoup the signing bonus until I've had a little more time to do some research. I'm going to have to write about this tonight for A to Z Sports Nashville.com, which you can make sure to read tomorrow morning. Is Vrabel going to talk to the media since there is no combine, says Amy? Yes, he was scheduled. Well, he wasn't scheduled. We were supposed to get him sometime in the next week or so. I imagine that will be delayed slightly to make sure he gets the proper PR prepping before they trot him out in front of us. The Shea Washburn says, cut Wilson. I think he may have already been cut. Did it ever start, says Jason Raines. That's a fair point. But yes, he is currently on the roster, and now you have to figure out if you can save $5.6 million by making sure that his guarantees, the rest of his guarantees, are voided because of that one game suspension. I don't know that anyone would want him. Nobody wants him. Nobody is going to want Isaiah Wilson. Isaiah Wilson, listen to me very closely, okay? Because I think you guys are talking amongst yourselves on Facebook. Again, I can't see. All I see is the comments. I don't see, whether you're talking to me or you're talking to somebody else. So I see a lot of it on Facebook, on YouTube. Listen to me very closely. I'm going to say this once, and I'm sure I'm going to have to say it again. Isaiah Wilson is untradeable. Got the itch? He's not worth anything on the trade market. It's done, okay? There is nothing about Isaiah Wilson that is tradable. Now, this is where it gets interesting, right? Shrike says that John Glennon of Broadway Sports said nothing has changed from the Titans' point of view. Now, I would say that that I am still awaiting confirmation on my own. So I will say to you, I'm just getting a lot of commentary like, nothing's official yet. So at this point, nothing is official yet. We don't know that Isaiah Wilson's off the roster. We are speaking more than anything hypothetically. But because with the genesis, if you're just now joining us, if you don't know what's going on, Isaiah Wilson tweeted out earlier this evening, about an hour ago, less than an hour ago when we started this show, I'm done with football as a Titan. No further comments. That was at 7:46 p.m. So literally an hour ago as we sit here tonight. So John Glennon is tweeting that nothing has changed from the Titans' point of view. To this point, that is my understanding as well. Nothing has been said officially to me that Isaiah Wilson will be cut or that anything has changed from their position of he needs to get his shit together, and then we'll talk about it. Is basically what John Robinson is paraphrasing what John Robinson said to us last week. Rob Foster says, I really like to think that he would have done this on every team. He wanted that $6 million to blow. Rob, we don't know that. We just don't know. If he quits, can they get the money back since he did not fulfill his contract? Amy, we've just walked through it. They can get some of it, not all of it. Again, there will be a lot written on this. Jim Hall wants to know who his agent is. So that's a good question. Isaiah Wilson's agent. Isaiah Wilson is represented by CAA. CAA represents every famous person and every famous athlete and every, Hollywood movie star and every major corporation brand name CAA reps everybody. Okay, now CAA doesn't rep me. That's a good point. I have different representation, but CAA on the massive when it comes to like pure star power, there's no better talent roster than CAA. Peyton Manning, Robert De Niro, Chick-fil-A, Coca-Cola, like all of these things, right? The biggest and the best in brand names. Isaiah Wilson as a first-round pick, and it's not uncommon. Like Taylor Lewan is rep by CAA, Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill, Corey Davis. I'm sure there are a bunch of other guys that are repped by CAA on the Titans roster. I think A.J. Brown is as well. Yeah, Tory Dandy is A.J. Brown's agent. And all of these guys have teams, right? CAA assigns them teams of agents to represent all of their various interests. Isaiah Wilson is represented by CAA. I know personally that CAA has tried to corral Isaiah Wilson's behavior to keep him on track, and he has been unwilling to move in that particular direction or to, again, accept the assistance that people are trying to reach out for him, reach out with him too. Buck, I'm glad it's over. Now we can see about getting Tyler Vrabel. Let's just relax on that. He got into CAA. Damn, he's Casanova, ain't he? Says El Boogie. Listen, he's a hugely talented football player, El Boogie. He's a first-round pick for a reason. Somebody would have taken Isaiah Wilson in the first round. Again, we don't know that the situation would have gone any differently, any better, or any worse on another football franchise. There are about half of these first-round picks that ended up being busts. This is just a particularly, unprofessional one. This is not something that happened because of lack of football ability. Isaiah Wilson has plenty of football ability. CAA was probably wise to go out and sign him, and not every CAA player, pans out, right? There are as many misses as there are hits in the NFL draft. It is literally a 50-50 proposition. He was picked 29. Forgive me, I said 22 earlier. Thank you for correcting me. No one else was picking him in the first, says Shrike. I don't know that's true, Shrike. All I know is the Titans liked him, and he was sitting there at 29, and they thought they could get Christian Fulton in the second, which they ended up doing. The $5.6 million is spread over the next 3 years, so we only save under $2 million next year. Again, it's different. You're talking about different situations with the cap. We're talking about guaranteed money, not necessarily cap hit, Jack. That's the difference in what we're talking about. Let's see. Troy Ortiz says Isaiah just stole $6 million without a gun. Now, Ski Mask All-Stars. There's a name for that. Huge offseason for us coming up, especially since last year's was so terrible, arguably the worst ever. Does that mean a first-round pick on the O-line again this year? Says Guac Taco. You're going to have to take one at some point. But listen, the biggest winner, the biggest unsung hero in all of this is Dennis Kelly. Good for Dennis, man. Like not just because Dennis is a professional, which is something that Isaiah Wilson has lacked in every step of all of these things. But Dennis played very well as a starting right tackle. He solidified the right tackle position for you in a way that you did not need to worry about Isaiah Wilson. Isaiah Wilson was made irrelevant this season because of Dennis Kelly's ability to play well, ability to be professional, ability to handle himself when he received a contract, and the Titans turned around and drafted a right tackle, a player at his position in the first round. That's a shot across Dennis Kelly's bow, and he handled it with incredible grace. All the props to Dennis Kelly. If we were doing a Tennessee heating and cooling heat check for a second night in a row, I would say Dennis Kelly heating the hell up because his job only got more secure with everything that's happened with Isaiah Wilson. And Dennis, he was in a good spot. Greatest trade ever, says Ethan Ramsey. You want to talk about all the things that John Robinson did wrong with the drafts? Dennis Kelly is Dennis Kelly continues to be not a lifesaver, but an incredibly important piece for this NFL franchise and somebody that John Robinson did well to bring in. That was the draft of tight end all over again, but with right tackle, says Shrike. Yeah, but Dennis isn't Delaney. Dennis isn't going to say, well, draft an effing right tackle then. I wish he would. I think that would be a lot of fun, but he didn't. Got him for DGB too. Yeah, listen, for everybody, there is a lot of good stuff. We didn't draft Dennis Kelly, says Andrew Reed. I'm not saying they drafted him. I'm saying they traded for him. That was an incredibly good move. They traded Dorial Green Beckham, another disaster of an NFL draft pick, a second-round pick, regardless, But Dennis Kelly was a trade for DGB in a way that everybody thought DGB was going to be the better player in that acquisition, and Dennis was just a depth offensive lineman. And he was largely, for his career here so far, a depth offensive lineman. And now he's a starting right tackle. Real easy. 1.25 million per snap. Man, Donnie just broke down the contract for Isaiah Wilson in a way really, really hurts you. 4 snaps, 1 on field goal, 3 in victory formation in the blowout in Indianapolis that the Titans were able to take and help them secure their stranglehold on the AFC. Listen, they did all of this. They went through all this Isaiah Wilson stuff and COVID and everything else that this season brought about and still managed to win the division. It's an okay position for you to take this hit on. Again, it's not a justification. It's not an absolution of John. This is a failure at every level of what the Tennessee Titans wanted to do. Charles says, do the Titans have a press conference tomorrow? You think? I will say to you, somebody just sent me Isaiah Wilson's rap situation. Oh my God. You know what? Let me find out if there could be something coming down. Give me a second. I'll send a quick text. I have a lot of them on my phone right now. If you guys will bear with me here on A to Z Sports Prime Time from the DraftKings Sportsbook Studios before we end the show with John. Hang on one second. Sorry, I can't type. I can't type and not talk, and I don't want to read my text aloud. All right, we got it. You got to keep moving. Silver lining entertainment value, says Tyke, I guess. Tribe Called Quest says, he ever think how his rap career is supposed to take off when his primary source of money is gone? It's a lot harder to fuel that rapper lifestyle. Uzi Vert didn't get that $24 million diamond in the middle of his forehead by not having a job. And I can tell you emphatically, no, there will not be a press conference tomorrow. So that is something that has just come across my phone as we sit here. So thank you for your patience and allowing me to type out a text. There will be no press conference tomorrow. I can bet you that. Nick Ewing wants a quick summary of the Wilson news. Okay, we'll recap real quick, and then we'll move on to John Robinson. So what's happened for everybody who's just joining, everybody who's just jumping in? Isaiah Wilson, a little over an hour ago, tweeted that his time with the Tennessee Titans had concluded. Again, I'm paraphrasing the exact tweet. I will pull it up. Quote from Isaiah Wilson's verified Twitter account, @_lazy_. I'm done with football as a Titan. No further comments. That was on his verified Twitter handle at 7:46 p.m. this evening. It is now 8:56 p.m. Central Time. So now we are awaiting confirmation. Isaiah Wilson, based on the conversations that I've been having with people in the organization, he is still on the roster. He has not yet been cut. Play the rap video, Buck, says Rashad. If I had the ability to, I can't. I was going to say producer Reed could download it real quick, send it to me, and I could put it in the system that we use to play the other videos. But I don't think we don't know what the language is in that, and I don't want to play something that would be not safe for work. Even though this is an after hours show, some of the language in there would probably be not something that I should do. Sorry, work late tonight. Thank you, says Nick Ewing. All right, let's talk about John. Here's the question for you guys. Reed, we're working on the fly. God bless you. You've done a great job. Producer Reed, here's what I want the question to say. Nick, we already went through the cap stuff. I can't recap everything for you. If you want to go back and watch the show, we went through the financial implications in the second segment. I'm sorry I can't do the whole show for you again. Here's what I want the question to say, producer Reed. How does the Isaiah Wilson debacle impact your view of Titans GM John Robinson? How does the Isaiah Wilson debacle impact your view of Titans GM John Robinson? That is the question that I am asking you here on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch TV. That is the thing that I request. I want to know how you view your general manager now that it seems, again, nothing has been made official yet. I want to be very, very clear. As we sit here at 8:57 p.m. on Monday, February the 22nd, Isaiah Wilson is still on the Tennessee Titans roster. He has tweeted that his time with the team is done. We do not yet have paperwork. We do not yet have wire transaction. We do not yet have official confirmation from the team. And right now, no press conferences are scheduled for tomorrow. I'm sure you will have more clarity by the time we speak on primetime tomorrow night. There's only so much babysitting you can do, says Stacy. How much does this change your view of John Robinson? While you guys do that, I will remind you about America's top-rated sportsbook app, DraftKings, because we do this show from the DraftKings Sportsbook Studios. There's a lot of stuff going on. I don't think necessarily, although I can ask our friends at DraftKings if they can set the odds for, I guess it's a little too late to set the odds of whether Isaiah Wilson is going to be a Tennessee Titan or not, but we'll see. In the meantime, you have all manner of no-brainer bets, profit boosts, and all kinds of great offers in the DraftKings Sportsbook app, including $1 to make $100. New customers can bet $1 on any basketball team, college, pro, you name it, you bet it. Any team to hit a three-pointer in any basketball game this week. If your team makes it rain, you cash $100. This slam dunk of an offer won't be around forever, so head to the App Store now, download the DraftKings Sportsbook, and get in on all of the action. Make sure you use that promo code A to Z Sports to get your shot to turn $1 into $100 when you bet on any team to hit a three-pointer in any basketball game this week. Promo A to Z Sports for new customers to get a shot at 100-1 odds on any basketball team to hit a three-point shot only at DraftKings Sportsbook. You must be 21 or older, Tennessee only. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. New customers only. Restrictions apply. Winnings paid out in $425 free bets. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text the Tennessee Red Line 1-800-889-9789 at DraftKings Sportsbook. Okay. So, A to Z Sports Primetime, DraftKings Sportsbook Studios. Use the promo code A to Z Sports. How does this affect your view of John Robinson? Everything that's happened in the Isaiah Wilson debacle. Not at all, says Ludo. So he absolves the GM of any wrongdoings. Yeah. What if he said F the Titans in the song, says Dom. Yeah, I don't use the F word on the primetime show. If I slip up and it happens, I just don't want to do that. I try to have a little bit of more professional. Now the podcast will drop an F-bomb. But the streaming show, I don't know. We try to make sure that this is a little family safer. Because the podcast, you know what you're getting when you turn that on. Nothing. It's individual choices, says Stacy. I still like J-Rob, says Evan C. White. C. Smith says he's all good with J-Rob. Not his fault that Wilson never saw the field. His fault that they didn't see the character issues. That's from Jack RG22 on Periscope. 50-50 about J-Rob, says Juan. And I think, there have been some flaws exposed in John Robinson, right? I still think that John is above average as it relates to his peers. He has helped build a successful, in his time of over 5 years, a successful NFL franchise that makes it deep into the playoffs, that makes it to the playoffs on a regular basis, that competes for division titles. All of that is so. And also he's had some awful whiffs. I'm sure you could say the same about any GM. This one is there's no precedent for Isaiah Wilson. This is a complete and total disaster. What has happened with Isaiah Wilson? John has aced every offseason until this past year, says Mad Dog on YouTube. Just think injuries killed the 2020 pickups, then throw in Vic Wilson. It looks worse than it did. Most of John's picks take a couple years anyway. I'm not going to say he's aced every offseason. I think that Kevin Dodd was still a bad pick. I think that he has struggled to fix the pass rush. It's been the biggest issue so far for the Titans, and always while under John. Kevin Dodd celebrating, says Greg German on Periscope. Yeah, it's a big day to be Kevin Dodd because you're no longer the worst draft pick in the history of the Tennessee Titans. That's your boy, Isaiah Wilson. Blame COVID, like everything else, is just a fan. Isaiah got butthurt because J-Rob called him out, says Rude Boy. I mean, then be better. Here's what I know. He got butthurt because they didn't put up a picture for his birthday. He had a birthday. They didn't post I think it's no free ads, but I think it's sponsored by like Tiff Streets or something like that around here. There was no Isaiah Wilson birthday post because why would they? What do they owe Isaiah Wilson? Isaiah Wilson hadn't done jack shit for them other than take their money and spend it on shit that he shouldn't be. I mean, listen, I don't care how he spends his money, to be honest with you, but I think it's fair criticism to say he hasn't earned it. He just showed he got drafted. Like, he essentially thought that he earned the money that he was given because of the way that he played in college and he made it to the first round of the NFL draft. No, you got to play. You got to participate. You got to help the football team. Isaiah Wilson didn't do that. So I don't care what Isaiah Wilson spends his money on. None of my business. Live your life. Don't tell me how to spend my money. I sure as hell won't tell you how to spend your money. So the relevance of the expenditures themselves, none to me. But what I care about is him wasting the money that he has not yet earned as a member of the Tennessee Titans. And that would be my feeling, and it is the feeling of the organization, again, based on the people that I've had conversations with, is this dude straight up robbed them. He's one lazy panda. Says Stacy, J-Rob still deserves another season before he is sent to the hot seat. I don't think necessarily he's on the hot seat. Called him out. That's grown folk life. Suck it up, says Jason Raines. 100% agree. A birthday post. I'll take $5 million to never hear about my birthday for the rest of my life, says Greg German. Yeah, but you say that because you don't have $5 million to make, right? Sorry, Isaiah, but the Titans don't take pics of garbage cans, says Dion. Now you guys are just being mean. And listen, I understand why you're pissed. J-Rob is never going on the hot seat, says Bronson Knuckles. I don't know that that's true, but I know that he's not going to be on the hot seat in the next 2 years. Stacy wants to know, is the money guaranteed? Again, Stacy, not to be rude, but go back and rewatch the show from tonight. We went through the financials in the second segment. I just cannot believe the situation that John Robinson finds himself in. It's unbelievable to me at this point. And how it's affected my view of him. Like I said, I still think John Robinson is above average at his job. Excuse me while I readjust in my seat. This is, by the way, pretty good show for not having a game plan. I mean, we know what's going on, and I have the ability to talk live, but this is 46 minutes of without a show plan. We just ran. So shout out, hey, get all the praise in the world to Producer Reed, because Producer Reed's doing this without any kind of structure, any kind of our normal format. It's not like I'm scripted anyway. I just kind of sit down and talk, right? But I am very proud of Producer Reed in this moment. He has done exceptional work, and this is why this is why we work with the best around here on the Primetime Show. Producer Reed kills it, so shout out to Reed. I would say to you, Lamonte says it's not that bad, y'all. Come on, what's not that bad, Lamonte? What are you talking about? The Isaiah Wilson situation isn't that bad. What do you mean? Not that that's like great analysis, but what do you mean? That's not all that bad. This dude is one of the biggest. Excuse me, I almost coughed. I'm so upset, and my voice is getting so high pitched. I'm not used to getting that. I'm not used to getting up that. I don't want to say getting up that high. Anyway, I'm not used to my voice going to that place. Lamonta, it is absolutely that bad. This is a failure on every level, and he is considered largely by many people in professional football circles to be the most unprofessional of any first-round draft pick that anybody has seen in the last decade plus of football. Social media amplifies that, of course. He also doesn't have to behave like a child on social media and post every watch and chain and car and trip to Miami and parties on boats when he's supposed to be on NFI and the team is still in season. All of this shit that he has done is so bad. Lamonta, what are you watching? I don't know how you're living, and if you're living like that, God love you, because it looks like a fun way to live, but it can't be an easy way to live. But that's problem after problem after problem. How many more do you want me to list? But in terms of how I view John about all of this, John Robinson, you have to nail this thing. You have to nail this thing coming up. This is the most, and I wrote about this last week after John spoke on Monday. This is the most important NFL draft, offseason, all of it, because John Robinson has a contender, an offense that is built to win now, a defense that needs severe course correction, but is really not that far away when you talk about what it is exactly they need and how defined and obvious those needs are. There can be no room for error. There can be no margin for error this offseason. John is secure in his spot as the general manager, but I am looking at him skeptically because this is yet another virtual offseason. And Reed, you can phrase this however you want as it relates to the response that you'll put out on social media. But this is another virtual offseason. And John Robinson did not handle the first one well. That's all I will say about that. You hope that he learns from his mistakes. In fact, I asked him how he planned to learn from the first offseason, and I thought he gave a very reasonable response, talking about how they needed more people, more scouts, more position coaches, more people involved in the scouting process from the virtual aspect, to be involved in these calls, to have interactions with the players prior to John and Mike pulling the trigger on a draft pick. These are things that are reasonable to expect. Again, they have a limited number of Zooms. They have unlimited phone calls, but that's not a great way. You don't know how many pro days you're going to. All of this stuff was still up in the air a week ago. So I understand why John's in the position that he is, and I understand that this made his job a lot harder to do. But this is the first one didn't go well. The second one needs to be substantially better. I wish y'all were GM, says Lamont. I'm not saying that I could do the GM job better than John Robinson. I'm not saying that John Robinson's bad at his job. That's not what I'm saying at all, Lamont. All I'm saying is it completely blew up in their face. Completely blew up in their face. And there's no way to ignore that. Bye-bye, little guy, says Tony and Key. You never played with us. I don't even know who you are. He's not little, but his impact was. Notifications coming up on Panda. You got it first, Buck. Nice, says El Boogie 808. I mean, yeah, it's an interesting situation to watch play out. I'll tell you what, though, our coverage of this is just beginning. I was the first one to stumble into it. It happened right before prime time. And I'll tell you what, I've got a lot more to come. I'm pissed. I'm largely pissed because I already taped the 615 sessions for tomorrow. And I don't want to, it's already scheduled to go up. I don't necessarily know that I want to take another crack at this thing or do another podcast and just scrap the whole show that we had today. But I'll think about it because I'm not tired yet. I'm going to write an article. I'm probably going to retape this damn podcast. Regardless, subscribe, rate, review. Alex says, am I tired yet? Hell no, I'm not tired yet. We got a lot going on. Teaser for tomorrow's show, says Jeremy. Well, it was Ron Slay and college and Tennessee Volunteers college basketball. But, Demetrius says, yes, you are. I'm a little tired. But you know what? Who's got it better than me, baby? Nobody. Well, like Jim Harbaugh says, who's got it better than us? Nobody. That's all right. I'm going to keep it going for the people. You guys' participation has been greatly appreciated tonight. You brought it strong as always. You brought it loud. We had a ton of time. Somebody wants me to show the cats. The cats are outside clawing at the door because it's time for them to eat. Regardless, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do all these things. I'm going to keep cranking out the great content for you because, damn it, we're not tired yet. We will see you guys tomorrow night on A to Z Sports Prime Time. You will hear us tomorrow on the 615 Sessions podcast. You will read me probably by the end of tonight because I'm going to have to write an article on this. But you know what? I don't care. I love it because I'm not tired yet. Let's go.